All right, let's jump right into it. You've seen the graph in the thumbnail. You probably want to know what it means. Well, here it is. These are the results from a research study called "The Honeymoon is Over. Sex-differentiated changes in sexual desire predict marital dissatisfaction." This is actually the amalgamation of two different longitudinal studies done over approximately 4 years. And what they were tracking is changes in sexual desire after marriage and as it relates to gender. If you want to read the study for yourself, there's a link down below, so you can check that out. So here you've got the solid line, that's the men, and the dotted line is women. And as you can see, the men start off with a much stronger desire for sex, and it actually increases over time. For women, there's a sharp decrease, so the longer that the marriage goes on, they experience less desire for sex. Now, lots of men want to know why this is because it bothers them. They want to have the same sex drive as their partner. They want to be happy in their sex life, but they're not. Men and women are different, and so they want to know why. What's going on here? Why do women lose their desire as time goes on after marriage? After all, when they're dating and it was just like boyfriend and girlfriend, they were having lots of sex, but now suddenly they're married and it's no longer a girlfriend, it's a wife, and they're not having sex anymore. A lot of men actually feel, tricked or manipulated in some way, like they were sort of led into a relationship with false expectations. I have answered this question so many times, lots of frustrated men reaching out to me dissatisfied in their sex life saying, "What's going on? Why doesn't my wife want to sleep with me? Why is my long-term girlfriend not interested in sex anymore? Is she not attracted to me? Is she having an affair with somebody else? What's going on?" It really rocks guys' self-esteem. When their girlfriend's not initiating, not interested in sex, it makes them feel undesirable, not good for their self-worth. By the way, if you have a question for me or you need advice, you can reach out to me on Hey Hero. Tell me a story, I'll send you a personalized video in response. Anyway, drawing from the results of this study, I'm going to give the 3 reasons in this video why women's desire for sex decreases after marriage. Okay, back to the video. Let's begin by answering the question, why doesn't men's desire for sex go down over time? Previous studies have shown that sexual desire is strongly correlated with testosterone levels, but also that men's T levels tend to drop the longer they're in a relationship. And so wouldn't it make sense if men have less testosterone, why doesn't their sexual desire go down? And what about the Coolidge effect? That idea that men's sexuality is strongly linked to novelty. The more variety they have in their sexual partners, the more sexual they're going to feel. But if it's just the same woman again and again and again, shouldn't their sexual desire be decreasing? My answer to that is that perhaps those two factors do decrease male sexual desire, but even with the two of them combined, it's not enough to override one of the central driving instincts for male sexuality, at least from an evolutionary perspective, which is the protection against cuckoldry. That is one of the main reasons why men are incentivized to sleep with their partners again and again over a long period of time. I've already done a video on why human beings are extremely rare. They're one of just a tiny handful of species on this planet that have evolved the bizarre mechanism where their females actually conceal their ovulation. So if you want to know the answer to that, go and check out that video. I'll put a link down below. Spoiler alert, it's so that women can cheat on their partners and get away with it, so they can commit paternity fraud, have sex with one man and get the children raised by another. But yeah, check out the video if you want to see that one. But given the female capacity for infidelity and dishonesty, men, as a way of kind of combating that, developed this really strong, constant sexual desire, because if they're frequently copulating with their partner, they're always having sex with them, it protects against paternity uncertainty because it increases the likelihood that any children that she bears are going to be his. Quick side note, in one of my recent Patreon videos, I made the case for mandatory paternity testing for all newborn babies at hospitals to protect against paternity fraud, something I feel very passionate about. If you want to see that video, check out my Patreon. But regardless of the reasons, we already know the reality. Individual exceptions aside, for the most part, men want sex all the time. And even though they've been married to their partners over a long period, they still, want to have a lot of sex. The question really is, well, why aren't women the same? Why is there this gender mismatch? So let's talk about that. Drawing from the study, I've got 3 reasons I'm going to discuss. First is stress. Second is limited reproductive capacity. And third is having achieved success already in pair bonding. That last one's probably the most important, but let's start with stress, okay? So it's no secret that in order to feel sexual and to have a good sex life, you need to be calm, you need to be relaxed. The stress chemicals like cortisol are absolutely terrible for your libido. It's one of the reasons why men who have a psychologically induced erectile dysfunction need to focus on relaxing, get more sleep, get more calm inside themselves, because all those brain chemicals caused by the stress, that's just terrible for your boners. Now, according to the study, there is some evidence that numerous challenges associated with marriage, not the least of which is birth and child rearing, often burden women more than men. So women are feeling more stressed by the burdens of marriage than men are. That doesn't surprise me, and it's not because men don't get stressed, but if you tend to ask men, what is it that's causing you stress, often they'll talk about their own personal achievements, how they're doing at work. It's about them as an individual. Now, I'm not praising men there. I think that men should probably make more of an effort to get more stressed and more involved in the difficulties associated with their relationships. But that's just how the genders kind of are. As a generalization, men are concerned about themselves as an individual, but the health of the relationship is more keenly tracked by the woman. And so things to do with their marriage and, the strength of their relationship, children, those shared activities and bonds, she's highly attuned to those and she's feeling the stress. Of course, the biggest stress felt by women is pregnancy, childbirth, and child raising. And it's stressful in a way that is unique to women. Reading directly from the study, the birth of children did not predict declines in husbands' sexual desire in any of the analysis. In contrast, the birth of children was significantly associated with declines in wives' sexual desire in all three analyses. Now, human beings are intensely social creatures, and we use sex as a means of cementing social bonds. That's really important, and I'm going to talk about that next. But as much as we have found, social uses for the sexual act, we can't escape the fact that fundamentally we are biological organisms, and that the biggest purpose for sex is reproduction. That's why we've been incentivized to make love. At a core level, we want to have children and pass on our genes to the next generation. But here's the thing. Men and women have vastly different reproductive capacities, and it shouldn't surprise anybody that that has a huge impact on the level of desire that we feel. Men can have so many children, because we create so much sperm. Really, the only limit to how many children you can have as a man is based on your stamina and how many women you can seduce. You've probably heard that incredible statistic that 1 in 200 people today can directly trace their ancestry to Genghis Khan. You think, well, how's that possible? But consider it for a moment. This guy conquered like a quarter of the world, and everywhere he traveled, he had lots of sex. He probably had more children than anybody could have possibly counted. And that number of children, that's just something that a woman would never, ever be able to do. Reading from the study, although a primary function of sexual desire is reproduction, women are more limited than men in the number of offspring that they can produce. It takes 9 months to grow a baby, and that takes a massive toll on your body. Childbirth can be dangerous, and even after the child comes out, they are dependent upon you for years. Reproductively, there's just a hard limit as to what a woman can actually do. So if your wife has children early on in the marriage, her body is going to respond, with that awareness, go, whoa, whoa, whoa. We need to slow down here. I can't handle, too much more of this. I'm already kind of at my limits. I'm not strongly incentivized to have lots of sex because part of me is terrified. I don't want to have more children right now. I think that would overwhelm and kill me. Yes, we do have contraception today, but we didn't evolve with them. For hundreds of thousands of years, we didn't have condoms or the pill. And so our instincts are still left over from that time period. And when you see women's desire for sex naturally drop off after marriage, after children, it's because she's become aware of her own limitations, and her mind, her instincts, her desires, they just naturally respond to these new circumstances. But now let's talk about the last reason why women experience a decrease in sexual desire, because in my opinion, it's the most interesting one. I hope this doesn't shock anybody when I say this, but one of the primary reasons why women have sex with men is to induce a commitment from him. Reading directly from the study, Recent perspectives suggest that extended sexuality functions to help women gain and maintain investment from men. In other words, if a woman can keep a man happy in bed, then she's going to inspire him to remain committed to her. You could bring this back to paternity certainty. So if a woman is making herself available for sex all the time, then it increases the likelihood that any children she has are going to be his, which therefore makes him want to commit to her more. So there it is. One of the big motivations that women have for having sex with men is to induce commitment from him, to inspire loyalty, to create that pair bond. You often see this play out at the beginning of a relationship when the woman just seems inflamed by passion. She's, desiring sex all the time, and they're doing it, many, many times every single week, often, more than once a day. And the guy's like, oh, this is great. But do you see, that's just a temporary circumstance, because she's trying to create a pair bonding experience. She's, merging physically with you because she's hoping it's going to have that same impact psychologically, so that the two of you, stop thinking of yourselves as separate individuals and more as a couple, more as a team. So it makes sense then that if a woman gets the impression that the commitment is fading, that the pair bonding is not as strong as it used to be, she may resort to having more sex with him to try and get more commitment out of him. And unsurprisingly, that's exactly what the science shows. Reading from the study, consistent with such perspectives, recent research suggests that women are more likely to engage in sex outside of their fertile window when they perceive that their partners are relatively low in their investments into the relationship. So that's not sex when she's ovulating, it's not being motivated by her desire to have children. This is conscious sex that she's having outside of that fertility window because she's trying to create more commitment, more pair bonding. But do you see then that if it's one of her motivations to have sex with a man to get him to commit more, inversely, if she already has his commitment, if she's confident in their pair bonding and in his loyalty, then that is naturally going to create a decrease in her sexual desire for him. Why would she keep sleeping with him? They've already pair bonded. She's already achieved her purpose. This perspective also suggests women's desire may decline more than men's as interdependence grows over time, because it may be less critical for women to maintain high levels of sexual desire as men grow more invested over time. So now you know. You're probably already aware that women experience less desire for sex after marriage, but you know the reasons: stress, limited capacity to create more children, and she's already achieved success in commitment and pair bonding. Now, when I read the conclusion of this study, I knew instantly that it was how I wanted to end this video, because the researchers just put it so well. So let's see what they had to say. Although childbirth predicted declines in women's but not men's sexual desire, and thus accentuated sex-differentiated declines, even couples who remained child-free over the course of the study showed a divergence of sexual desires. We suspect many couples see this as a sign that their marriage has serious problems, for which they may blame themselves and each other. Insofar as neither couple member anticipates this issue, both may come to feel that their partner is changing the marital expectations. Our findings might reassure some couples that the emerging mismatch in marital sexual desire is normal and typical. It is thus possible that a greater societal recognition of the typical emerging mismatch in spousal sexual desire may lead to greater acceptance and understanding for some couples, and thereby a reduction in marital discord. Of course, what is typical is not necessarily good, especially when one considers the role of individual differences in relationship processes. And couples who remain distressed by mismatches in sexual desire may benefit from interventions that specifically address this issue. This is not a video to shame women and say like, oh, look how horrible they are for not sleeping with their husbands more. That's not at all what this is about. If you want to do that kind of thing, go to one of the other hundreds or so YouTube channels that bash women. People come here, hopefully for education. The lesson to be learned here is that men and women are different. We have different desires, different instincts, different expectations. It might not be very, PC to talk about it, but that sucks because it means that men and women are entering into relationships with a completely different set of expectations as to how their partner's going to behave. People think that the other person's going to act like them, that they're going to feel the same way that they do. And it creates stupid arguments based on this misunderstanding of simple gender differences. The truth is, like the conclusion of that study said, the fact that your partner might be, mismatched in terms of your sexual desire, that might not be because there's anything wrong with your relationship. It might be completely natural. It's just based on gender. I hope that people find knowing that reassuring. It's not that your wife hates you or that she no longer finds you attractive or anything like that. The drop off in sexual desire might simply be because of these natural, feminine, specific, reasons. But I also really like what the study says at the end of that conclusion, that just because it's typical doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. And so there's no need to be all doom and gloom, just resigned to your fate. If you're not happy with your sex life, just because it's kind of to be expected that this was going to occur, that doesn't mean that you need to be, satisfied. You need to put up with that. You can intervene. You can try and change things. That's absolutely fine. If you're unsatisfied, talk to your partner, try and fix it. But knowing this information, hopefully you can have that conversation with her now without shaming her, making her feel like there is something wrong with her for not wanting to sleep with you more often. I know that it can feel personal and you can feel as though you've been tricked, because she used to sleep with you all the time and now not so much anymore. But please just understand, if you were a woman, you'd be experiencing the exact same thing. Again, it's not that you shouldn't be trying to change things and asking for compromises from her or whatever it might be. It's just have realistic expectations going into the relationship. You can tell her, I understand that it's quite natural for your sexual desire to drop off, but you also need to understand that I'm a man and my sexual desire is exactly the same. And so we need to work together as a team to try and figure out a solution that works for both of us. That's the mature way to go about it. That's the emotionally healthy way to go about it. That's what a high quality man would do. Some women have the really unpleasant habit of commenting on the hotness of other men, even when they're in a relationship with a man or when they're on a date with a man. What's going on here? Now, obviously, it's perfectly natural to just notice other attractive people, but there's actually very specific psychological reasons why a woman might be saying that to the man that she's with. And understanding these reasons is going to be essential if you're going to navigate those situations correctly. If you want to know the answer to those questions, go and check out my latest Patreon video. My Patreon's just $5 a month. There's like 150 bonus videos you get instant access to. It's tremendous value. There's a great community over there. It's a great way to support the creator. I'd love to see you over there.